Okay. What's going on, everyone? So we are the Officials Club podcast. I'm Brett,
I'm Ryan.
I'm Miles.
and you can find our socials. We are Instagram at official_the Winners Club, or on TikTok also the official_Winners Club, and on YouTube. And we will be having a podcast very, very soon. So yeah.
All right. So, for the theories of depression, I think, or my hypothesis is that C plus S equals 200%.
Mm-hmm.
So, the conscious part of your brain is going to equal 100%, and the subconscious part of your brain is going to equal another 100%. Picture it like a dam.
Yeah.
Like, you have one side that has all the water, one side that has none.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like, I guess, your conscious and your subconscious part of your mind. So your conscious is always going to be responsible for adapting to the things that happen right in front of your eyes, things that are out of your control that you have to cope with, traumas, experiences, things like that. Your subconscious part of your brain, though, is all the things that are in your individual control. Those things, though, aren't as obvious because they're subconscious. You're unaware of them, right?
Yeah.
So you are actually in power for half of your depression if you were to get it. Mainly actually 75 in my opinion, because if you have if you're borrowing 100% of your stamina levels of your subconscious part of your brain, that could get really, really bad, where even if it's not a death in the family, it could be something as simple as losing a baseball game, a championship game. That's not a traumatic experience, but that's a loss, a breakup with like a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Something like that could just raise the bar for you so high, even though it's not a big thing, just because you're already nearing 100%. So it could be something that can actually inflict 25%, like a breakup, but that 25% can actually mean 100% because you're already at 100% subconsciously. So,
go ahead.
no. So I think, though, if you can somehow dilute your subconscious mind all the way down to 10-15%, you'll be able to cope through anything. You'll be able to push through anything because you know you can do it on your own. So this is where it kind of comes into men, because men are the ones who are suffering from suicidal thoughts. They are the people who are reaching 200% more than anybody else in the world. White men in particular. I'm not sure why it's white men, but as of right now, men kill themselves 1.5 to 3 times more than a woman does. I believe a man can bring down his stamina levels of his subconscious mind by fulfilling his purpose, adapting to his traditional gender roles, things like that a man can improve his self-discipline, all these things that make a man a man. I think if you can do that, you can not only get over any traumatic experiences, but you can also push through the good times with the better head on your shoulders. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, also, I would like to add in, too, there's, like, certain things, like, that you can control and certain things that you can't control, too. Like you were saying earlier, like, that 25%, I feel like that's the stuff that are sort of out of your control, whether that's, like, a death in the family.
Yeah.
Right.
Or something, like, traumatic like that. Like, it's just you can't control it.
I'd say any kind of, like, dramatic or traumatic loss. It can be either or, because it could be as simple as a breakup, or it could be as harsh as a family member passing away. It could be something, anything that can raise the bar from 0 to 100, and that's what your conscious mind can do. It can raise the bar from 0 to 100 because, I mean, when you're happy, your conscious mind is happy. You are aware of all the things, like when you're hanging out with friends. You know what I mean? That's building you conscious happiness. But who's to say when you go home after hanging out with all your friends, you're going to eat like shit, you're going to sleep like shit, and you're addicted to your screen time, you're addicted to nicotine, all these things that are really, really bad for your brain.
Right.
That is where you're hurting yourself, because now when you go home, who's to say you go home to a family that's fighting? So you just consciously had a great time with your friends, but then subconsciously you're living not happy. And now, while with that correlation, you're also not going to be living happy anymore consciously, because now you're aware of all the things that you're doing that are making you this way. You know what I mean? So when your parents are fighting at home, now you're consciously aware of that. You're not thinking of, oh, I was just with my friends, I had a good time. Now you're consciously like, oh, this is bad. So that's why I think it leads to mood swings too.
Yeah. No,
having an imbalance and a fluctuation of both
mm-hmm.
is what leads to mood swings, things like that. So that's why I just feel like it's such an easy fix to just discipline yourself, to just bring down your subconscious levels so far where they can't rise up. It would have to take a long period of time, and it'd also take another practicing of getting re-addicted to all these things. Mm-hmm. And I don't think once you beat the addiction that you can reoccur it at the same rate that you did like originally. You'd have to ease back into it. You'd have to test yourself. Just like, I mean, when you see people like, I don't know, people who get admitted to rehab and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Typically, you don't quote me on this, but typically when they are clean, they come home, they don't just drink one beer and get readmitted. Like they build it up. You build it,
right.
alcoholism back up. So that's what I'm saying for this. It's like a similar ideology. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think also too, I remember in like The Atomic Habits by James Clear, he was also saying he spoke, I think, like a very brief chapter on like addiction too.
Yeah.
And how like this, I forget who it was, this woman that quit smoking, she quit for like 5 years, but she would always do it while, I think it was like on the farm, like riding her horse or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But and then 5 years later, when she went to go like ride her horse or something, that same like trigger came back in.
Right, it's because subconsciously it's like you're already training your body to like do certain things at certain times, so that way when you go do these things it kind of sparks the memory again of you doing. I was just reading about this, matter of fact. I'm just trying to look through my notes right now, but it's like I'm trying to think of an example.
Because you're consciously associating yourself though,
right, with something else.
Yeah,
like,
so say like you go home and, for instance, I'm going to go back to the example that I had. So say you hang out with your friends, you're consciously having a fun time and stuff like that. Now you go home, you're subconsciously living like shit. Like you're not doing things that are in human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And you find, I don't know, your parents fighting and stuff like that. Now you're going to like hyper focus on that. And then now when you come home, you're going to associate, oh, I'm having a good time with my friends. It's immediately going to be bad now.
Right. It's
you know what I mean? The
right.
environment switch is just going to lead to a mood swing. So it ties into both, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because that leads to a mood swing is when you go from wishy-washy to two different things.
It's kind of unfortunate too because of like how traumatic experiences like
affect people,
affect you, and how long it takes for you to really kind of, regain consciousness. Realize it. It really depends on the situation too. Like some people heal faster than others, but like for example, like you said, like your parents fighting. If you grew up with that, that's gonna stick with you for a very, very long time. Probably until like you get out the house, you move out the house, you start doing your own things. But it's different for everybody, I feel like. But it's still like unfortunate that people are so affected by these traumatic experiences, and it's even in worse situations too. Like like sexual assault and more serious matters. I think it's that could be the 25% that you were talking about.
Yeah,
because that's at a young age, like that's not controllable either. Because you don't know what's happening, and then it doesn't really affect you till later because you're like, wow, like
that's a good
you know what I mean,
key point. Like physical violence is like a way where it can like catch up with you, because you can also again, like when the time in your life when you experience it, you may not really be aware of it until the trigger happens. And when the trigger happens, then you become consciously aware of it again. It gets kind of swept under the rug, but then when the rug's moved, it's blatantly right there.
Which is why a lot of, I would say guys specifically,
tend to do that more than women.
Tend to come out about them being sexually assaulted until later on, because when they're kids, it's like did that really just like they like you don't understand like that's not right. Like you understand it's weird, but when you get older, you're like wow, like that happened to me, and like now you want to talk about it because as a guy and like masculinity and stuff, it's like, oh, that can't happen to me. But as a kid, you don't even understand masculinity, you don't understand sexual assault, any of that. So it doesn't really seem like it's still weird, but it doesn't seem like it's really that much of an issue right now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say?
I'm gonna cut you off. I think it's mainly like the process of psychologically maturing over
right, exactly.
Times. Yeah. And I think when men progress into men, they don't they're not born men. You know what I mean? We're born boys.
Yeah.
Girls are born girls, and then they progress into women. So I think over the time period of your life, of like your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, then you'll kind of realize all the messed up traumas you've had in your life and stuff like that. So it kind of just goes with like fulfilling like your gender role norm, and also psychologically maturing. That's why I think I also do think though that men tend to sweep up things under the rug, I guess,
right,
more frequently in their like teens than their 20s and 30s, because that's their way of coping. That's how they know how to cope.
Right.
Because again, I think a lot of kids nowadays, I mean, I was a victim of it too, all fall fault to the wrong social norms. Like now you see kids like so much screen time. Like kids are getting into vaping now, like wicked young. Like
wicked young.
I'm
talking middle school, like even smoking weed, like
7th grade. Dude.
7th grade. I know people that started
smoking. I know
fifth
people
grade.
doing drugs in 7th grade. Right
but that's
now.
their way of coping with their traumas.
Weird.
That's their way of coping. Though.
Coping. And there's other ways to. I mean, there's more than just vaping and weed. There's there's cocaine.
There's
shrooms.
Could be
there's other
light
ecstasy.
or as belligerent as either. It could be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my observation, though, is that these people are struggling subconsciously, and these are their ways that they're making conscious adjustments to themselves. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's addicted to caffeine and they're drinking 5 coffees a day and wonder why they can't sleep. Like, you're doing it to yourself, but they're trying to stay awake because they're probably not satisfied with the way they're living right now. They're probably always anxious, and they are, because you're not sleeping either. But you're always anxious. You're always trying to give yourself energy because you're, I don't know. There's a lot of ideologies that can fall behind that notion, but just an example.
Like this
You
motherfucker
couldn't have
drinking
said
coffee.
it any better time.
Drinking
coffee.
I'm about to say this motherfucker drink coffee. Then you know.
Well, coffee's not bad. I'm saying 5 a day though. That's bad. Vaping all day is bad.
Vaping all day.
Or
you can't fucking sleep.
The abuse of a substance is bad always.
Yeah, or just having coffee like literally 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's not good.
It's not good. I think that like the prime time is 8 o'clock, because caffeine is in your system for so long. I think it's in for at least like 8 hours or 6 hours, or something crazy like that.
It's not even just coffee too. It's like I see motherfuckers drink like 3 Red Bulls in like one sitting, and I'm like,
what the fuck?
Like,
yeah,
it's weird. Even Monsters and shit. Like it's crazy.
I know. That's crazy.
Like that shit's not good for your body. But no, back to what we were saying about like discipline and shit. I think it's always good to develop good habits and always set goals for your habits, so that way you could achieve them at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think teens like struggle with that though. I think especially young boys and men, boys maturing into men struggle with that, because again they turn to all these substances. They don't face their feelings. I feel like that's why they sweep things under the rug. So then over time, I think 20s, 30s, and 40s are like the prime time of developing suicidal thoughts as a man. You don't really typically see older men having suicide rates.
I mean,
high.
you do,
you
but
do.
But it's not like
I'm saying. I'm targeting though the specifics on it. It's the highest probability is from 20s to 50s is what I would say.
Yeah.
Early 50s though, because late 50s it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Unless something like really like fucked up happens.
Well,
to
that's rare though compared to what everything else. So when I'm talking about like,
I wouldn't say rare, but I know what you're saying though.
It's not rare, but it's not common.
Right.
It's more common for a man to kill himself when he's from 20 to 50.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's because he swept all of his trauma underneath the rug from all the way leading up to his first depression, because depression's inevitable in everybody. I'm a firm believer in that.
Right, because it's going to hit you at that point.
It's going to rain. You have sunny days, you have rainy days. It's in life. Mm-hmm. Not everything's going to go your way.
Yep.
Nobody's Jesus Christ, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think if you are consciously sweeping things under the rug, you're subconsciously burying yourself. I know, but you're subconsciously burying yourself, where now you're raising the stamina level that we talk about really near 100%. So now, again, when people are like 20, 30, 40, 50, a whole realm of new shit can happen to you. You could get laid off. You can get divorced. You can get cheated on. You could have both your parents pass away. You can have so many losses in your life that now you have no idea how to handle them, because you couldn't even handle them when you were younger. You know what I mean? So you're just kind of heading your trajectory of life. You're just heading forward with little to no anticipation of the bad, no experience really of handling anything, and you're so far miscued off of your traditional gender role norm where you can't really even turn to anybody in your circle because all the people in your circle you can't really even trust. And as a man, I think you have to trust the people who you're around with, the people that you feel like give you valuable insight and will be brutally honest with you. Those people haven't been surrounded by them at that stage in their lives, so now who do they turn to? They can't turn to anybody because now, I mean, when you are that old, those are probably also the people that believe therapy is wrong, that believe therapy will make you a quote-unquote pussy. I believe men get stuck with that emotion. They feel cornered, belittled, and as a result, they end up committing suicide. I think that's the trajectory that it leads upon. I think that's how it happens. That's my hypothesis.
I agree with that because men tend to like bottle things up, and they don't speak really out.
Though, how like men look at like that kind of thing from more of a masculinity standpoint. And well, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying like it gets to a point where it's like you were saying, like oh, it's like a pussy thing, or like, you know.
Well, I also want to say though, it could even be that, or they become so lost with themselves that they result into violence. That's why you can see people who beat their wives, people who, I mean, men are obviously the most responsible for crimes committed, murders, all these things. Like, it can just lead to corruption of the mind and deviance too, not just towards yourself, but towards others, or both. I mean, like, does anybody ever question why all school shooters are males? Things like that, because they're usually young males too. They're students, people who have their masculinity threatened. They are consciously and subconsciously depressed. They have no idea how to handle it, and instead of turning to other people because society has shamed them, they want to become the bigger man, the macho man, and prove their dominance to everybody. Like, oh, I have a gun now. I think Devon said this before too. That okay, now they're the superior people because they have a gun, and now they can kill people. Like, that's obviously not a good way to think.
Right.
I'm saying we want to try to advocate how you can prevent this. We recognize this because we've all had our own fair shares of shit in life, so we've all kind of collectively seen this. And I don't think a lot of people our age can see this. So I think it's selfish if we don't talk about it to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I do. Especially with social media nowadays too. Like, that also affects.
That makes it so
much
worse.
The way it gets manipulated is unbelievable to me.
Like, it's crazy.
Like, in terms of like back to the school shooting things, it's like how people get like bullied online. Because like obviously like the stuff like that's from trauma, but the fact that trauma can happen on your fucking phone now, it's just like blows me up, because you know people get like exposed and people get like, bullied online, and it's. The media like doesn't really help. As much as people love their phones, you know that shit destroys us every single day.
Yeah, and people.
I like looked at my screen. I didn't mean to cut you off. I looked at my screen time from this past week. Like today, I get like every Sunday I get like a notification, like 5.5 hours a day.
I'm at 4.
Like, that's so bad though. Like, I'm wasting so much of my day.
No, mine's way worse. Just
scrolling on stuff that doesn't better me.
What was yours?
Like 5 and 17. Like 5, I rounded up to 5.5 because I always want to.
Let's see.
I actually have an app that allows me to block certain, like, so I have my Snapchat, my TikTok, my YouTube, my Instagram blocked. I have it from 9 to 5, so I can, go to school.
10 hours?
Shit.
Yeah. That's not good.
So think though, 10 hours that you could be putting into investing in stocks, 10 hours where you could be putting into reading, 10 hours where you could be putting in to different deviations and divide it all up, but in good ways.
I'm sorry.
Also, no, you're good. So I have like an app. It's called Opal. If anyone wants to download it, it costs. They give you like a long like 2 weeks free trial, so you can test it out. So it blocks apps, and then it shows you a score of like your flow state, and each time you go on the app, you get minus like 0, like depending how effective the app is. Like say for Snapchat's it's 0. I think like minus 0.4, and you start off with a 10.0 as your flow state. That's like the perfect flow state.
Right.
But if I go on like my music, it's like 0.008 because it doesn't really like affect like I'm just like switching a song or like who knows what. Anyway, but I think that's a good app for me too. It allows you to take breaks, but you can also have it so you don't take breaks.
Yes, take breaks.
So the longest it goes for is 15-minute break, and then what it does automatically is it actually shuts down your app, so you can't even click on it. It says Oppo has blocked this app, this, that. But I also think too is it's mainly what you see on Instagram. So if you're looking at depressing stuff on Instagram, just whether that's abuse on Instagram, like the algorithm is still gonna feed you that like same negative stuff in your feed. But if you're seeing like motivational videos all the time or like positive stuff that impacts you, gets you motivated, that stuff, that's
how social media can be your friend.
Exactly.
Agreed, because I think social media is like one of the biggest, if not the leading addiction for people our age. Like, I believe.
Very true.
I mean, nicotine's up there, caffeine's up there, but I also think screen time is a huge one.
Huge thing.
So much so where people are texting and driving, people are walking into people just because they're so addicted to looking down at their screen. Like, there's so much behind it. And I've learned a lot about it in sociology, too, of how it impacts, like, relationships and stuff. And, I can't remember her name, but I think her last name was Turker. It was an assignment I had to do. We learned that she was kind of like observing 10 high school students, and she looked at their trajectory of their screen time, and I think 9 of them had like over 7 hours a day. 2 of them had like 2 incidents of texting and driving and like hitting other cars and stuff like that. Like 2 people had 2 cases to themselves, all while being under 18. Like that's not good. That's really not good.
Yeah, no.
That's not good. And I think screen time though is like one of the leading things though that impacts your subconscious mind, because say you wake up, screen time again, it's such a pivotal thing because you have such easy exposure to it. You can wake up and just check your phone for hours. So I mean, like when you roll out of bed, what's going to be better for you? Are you going to get up?
Or are you going to sit there on your phone?
Exactly. Are you going to get up, make your bed, so you've already achieved a purpose? Or are you going to get up and scroll on TikTok for 2 hours? I mean, I used to do both.
I used to do both as well, yeah.
But now I make my bed and I feel a lot better with myself.
Another thing, too, is like, I'm not anti-video game or anything. I think video games are cool, but I think there comes to a limit. Agreed. If you're spending 4 hours on a video game and, let's say, not doing your homework or not doing, stuff that inspires you, I think it's a little too much, like dopamine that's happening for your brain.
Agreed.
And
it's not.
Why are you so worried about leveling up a character in a video game when you can do this in real life?
The funny thing is that the fact that we used to do that shit too is
right?
kind of crazy. Like the fact, I mean, like when we used to be in Xbox Live, just
for 10 plus hours playing the same video game.
But like we could do that though. We were kids. We really didn't. We were maturing, we didn't have the knowledge that we had now. Everything was just right in front of us. Looking past.
I think also too though is like there's a bunch of there's streamers out there, YouTubers, whatever. I think that's cool as long as you're being productive. But I think also too like being proactive and healthy, like going to the gym. And what's good about the gym too is that discipline of you going every single day, that can be applied anywhere. I can apply that to work, like for example, work on this podcast. Just a reoccurring habit that's sort of becoming automatic, and it can get boring, but it's also I think this was also a thing in James Clear's book Atomic Habits. He's like, you want to obsess with the boredom. You want to make boredom fun.
Agreed.
And also challenge yourself. Also, like each habit, you want to push yourself even more. Like, okay, I'm journaling at night. I'm reading a chapter. Why don't I read a chapter and write notes and journal?
Agreed. And I also want to go back to your point where you said like going to the gym, making that like a habit and a routine. I think if you're bettering your mind, you're also bettering your body, and vice versa. You're bettering your body, bettering your mind. It's kind of, there's 2 aspects to bettering yourself, physically and spiritually slash psychologically. If you can build a relationship with God or whoever you believe in, you're also gaining spiritual essence and spiritual flow in your life. You're getting guidance from yourself and the belief that God will give you what you want. I mean, I'm not saying God's real. I'm not really sure yet, but I think the idea of God does exist just because of how many people believe in him, where it can kind of convince your mind that if I act a certain way, I will become better, which is catering to God. Even if he's not real, the theory that he's a thing is enough to give the belief to live under his rules and standards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like God will God will bless you. Exactly.
But it's really what it is, in my opinion, is that you're just working really hard for your things, and it's one thing's gonna give.
Yeah.
Just like if you, again, have a lot of bad, something's gonna give.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna be really pushing the limit. It can happen in happiness and sadness, or anger. Again, like a school shooting. You can get driven so far off where you're so angry that you're gonna go and shoot up a school. Like it can go in any kind of emotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough.
That's very true.
All right, let's talk about discipline here and kind of what you guys think about discipline. You know, what does it mean to you, and how you guys associate discipline into your life? How you can get better at being disciplined is what I'm trying to say.
I'd say the first step in anything is always self-reflection or honesty. You got to be honest with yourself. You can't just mask over the little things and put blame on other people when you're not taking self-accountability.
Correct.
If you're taking honesty for the reasons why you didn't get up in the morning and you missed class, that's step one. And then step two, I think, is changing it, getting that cue to change that. 3 is response, and 4 is the reward.
Reward, yep.
Exactly. And they say it in James
Clear's automatic habits, yeah. Or atomic habits. Yeah. But yeah, also a thing is too, like it does start with that you want that awareness.
Agreed.
Like being aware that, okay, this is a problem, how can I fix it? And then actually doing it. Like if you want to get disciplined and go to the gym every day.
Right.
Step 1 is going to the gym.
Could be for 5 minutes. It
could be for 5 minutes.
10 minutes.
Could be for an hour.
15.
Just
right. There's no excuse for it.
Mm-mm.
Like even the book I was reading, the guy was like, you know, I feel like a lot of us we're lazy especially when it comes to the gym. Like, I don't want to go to the gym because my legs are sore, or I hit everything for the week. Go and do cardio. Go.
There's ways to work around things.
Right. Exactly. There's other ways around it.
Yeah.
Like the days that we don't want to do something, you what?
You don't do it. In human nature, when you don't want to do something,
I'm
saying not for us. I'm saying for people in general. No, I'm saying though, if you want to build consistency and discipline, that's what you do. Is that you do it. But I'm saying a lot of people now don't make that environment attractive enough to them where it's going to benefit them so much so where they want to go.
Yeah,
they are okay with taking a cheat day, a rest day, and stuff like that, which is fine. But you're not building full self-discipline.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's okay to take a rest day, of course. Like you want to take
I'm saying though, on days where you don't want to do something, people
are like,
typically don't
I'll
go
just take
through
a
it.
rest day.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying in general. I'm saying people will create like a hypnosis in their mind that it's okay to slack off, and you were building something and now you're kind of just letting it go. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So continue.
So like when you are building something up and you kind of just create like a hypnosis in your mind that, okay, it's fine. Like I don't have to go. I'm not going to go. Now you're kind of just letting everything crumble. Like, why are you doing that?
And you know what that starts with? I feel like a lot of people need to have a good morning routine in order to really, I think the morning routine is huge, and that's something I also wrote about. When you wake up in the morning, like we were just talking about, you don't want to sit there on your phone scrolling through TikTok.
Yeah.
Or, you don't want to, snooze your alarm for another 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Get up, go for, I know you wake up and go for a run.
Go for a run, yeah.
Wake up, go for a run. Eat something healthy after, and then you will feel so much better. You'll be so much more motivated to do things throughout the day. Because if you have a shit morning, you're most likely to be like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to go to the gym because I feel like shit.
Or drag through the day.
Right. I'm going to drag through the day because now you feel like shit. Now you want to eat like shit. Now you want to do things that are shit.
And keep in mind, too, like these are also things, though, that are like happening subconsciously that you're just doing. But consciously, it could be a rainy day. It could be, I don't know, it could be you have an exam this day. Like there's a whole lot of other factors too where it can play into making it a worse day. But if you wake up attacking your goals off the bat, taking care of your body or your mind as soon as you wake up, body working out, mind making your bed, or both. Now you're not only achieving purpose, but you're building confidence through that day. That okay, even though I do have an exam, I'm gonna do good because I feel good. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that thing. Yeah. Look good, feel good.
Yeah.
Things like
always focus on the end result. You wanna, look at it. It's kind of fucked up that people don't like. They look at their end result, but they're like, "Oh, that's so much work." I think something that you should do is celebrate every win that you get. Make milestones in between that goal, and when you reach those milestones, you celebrate them. So that way, it motivates you to continue towards this goal. Because if you don't celebrate these little milestones, the goal looks way farther.
Agreed. I also think though acknowledging your mistakes is a huge part too, because you're building the habit of taking self accountability. So if you're gonna obviously like keep track of your wins and stuff like that, that could get to your head. That could get to an over compliance of confidence, I think. So if you're also acknowledging where you went wrong, that's how you learn. That's how you can continue to push yourself to grow. You're setting the ball rolling by tracking like your wins, but you're also pushing that ball further in front of you where you can run up to it again and push it again. That's what life is. You give and you get. So when you give off the ball of life, it's going to come back to you, but you're going to be stronger as a result because you push it off and you track your bad days. That's how I picture it. It's kind of like, think of I don't know if you guys ever seen that picture where it's like, I think it's like a Greek chiseled god or something. He's huge and he's like pushing like a huge boulder up a mountain.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I kind of interpret it like that a little bit. Because while you're doing it, it seems like that hill is so far up and this boulder is so heavy. But if you do it little by little,
right? Yeah. It's not going to seem as bad.
But little by little means good and the bad. Because,
that's true. Right, you're gonna have setbacks, of course. Exactly. Not everything is straightforward. Not everything's
so that's where you acknowledge that where you went wrong, you learned from it, and you keep pushing forward.
Yep.
Which brings me to my next thing, which is why you should never try and do something. You see, because if we say, I'm going to try to do something, we're less likely to hold ourselves accountable. Because they're like, oh, at least I tried. If you say you're going to do something, like you were just saying,
and you follow through on it, like your word, because I think
right, exactly.
As a young man, though, if you can give your word with meaning behind it, you're also going to convince your mind that, okay, if I'm telling myself I'm going to do it,
you are going to do it. And even if you mess up, like you were saying before, you look at these failures and these setbacks and you're like,
just go at it again.
I could again and again and you're more likely to hold yourself accountable, look at what you did wrong, and come back twice as stronger. If you say, I'm gonna try and do this, I'm gonna try and do that, first of all, your confidence is very low, right? And once again, you're not going to hold yourself accountable of it because at least you tried to do something.
And your mind's hearing you too while you're saying, I'll try and do something. You'd rather say, I will do something. Right. I will do this.
Don't try and do something.
Exactly.
Do it. Because you're more likely to get 10 times more of a drive to do something. That if you say, I'm going to try. Like, that sounds like not confident at all. If you tell me I'm going to try to run a marathon, I'm going to be like, dude, he's going to fucking give up at like...
Yeah. But if you set the goal, I'm going to run a marathon, and you don't look at it like I'm about to run a marathon tomorrow. No, I'm about to run a marathon. I'm going to do it. But step 1 is, can I get through a mile first? Step 2, can I get through 2 miles? You know what I mean? It's setting that, you're setting the principle that you're going to do something, but then you break it into little bits and pieces on how you're going to attack it. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they set such a high standard for themselves, but they don't look at how to one by one take each piece out of it and accomplish it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate too, because as kids we are drilled into our heads by parents and teachers and whatnot that, try your best, which is no, and it's good. It's fucked up because that's where we get it from, is to try our best, is because when we're younger, that's what they tell us. I think it should be like, do your best, not try your best, do your best. Because once you have that mentality as you get older, it's always do, it's not try.
I like that.
I'm sure, like, all of us here, we've heard by, your parents, teacher, your friend, try your best. Always try your best. No, always do your best.
Do your best, yeah.
Don't try your best, do your best.
Agreed. Because if you do your best, I'm telling you, the difference in work is going to be substantial from doing and trying. There's a huge fucking difference, in my opinion.
Right. Like, you were just telling me on the phone when I called you at the field, you were like, don't say you're going to try to make the football team. You are going to make the football team. Yeah. Make it like I say I'm going to fucking do it.
If you try, you're also... It's more of like a hope versus confidence kind of thing. Right. Trying, I'm hoping to make the team. Doing, I'm confident I'm making the team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another thing is don't be afraid to ask for help for, of people that are more knowledgeable than you. Exactly. I think that's more of an ego thing. Because, I come to you for a lot of things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I know you are more knowledgeable in areas that I'm not,
Vice versa with both of you guys, too.
Right, mm-hmm. Vice versa. So, but I'm never afraid to go ask questions. And a lot of people don't do that. It's because it's an ego thing. Like, oh, he knows more than me.
Yeah.
And it's more of a masculinity thing, I feel like.
They feel threatened by it. And typically, like,
oh, like, he's better than me.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not what it is.
Exactly. I think men... people always want to gain superiority when you're a man. Like, that's just what it's in human nature to do that. Again, I'm gonna always draw this comparison of the school shootings because, again, that man who feels his masculinity is threatened, he's gonna result in violence, which is a school shooting. Other people do it in anger. Some people do it in uncertainty. It kind of just stems from a lot of different pieces. Masculinity is something I think is very miscued nowadays. I don't think people really understand it. And, I mean, I didn't either for a while. Mm-hmm. But I think being a strong man is being a self-reflective man. And knowing, okay, I can make improvements here. How do I do that, though? You go and seek the people who are smarter than you. Yeah. Just like if you're trying to chase money, are you going to ask advice to people who are broke? No. You're going to ask advice to the people who are richer than you.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, that's almost like having like a gym trainer, and that gym trainer's 400 pounds. Mm-hmm. Like, little things like that. Like, you want to seek validation and guidance from the people who are ahead of you, not behind you.
Yeah, or it's like someone running a successful business and you want a mentorship.
Internship, something like that.
For example, like, if you're a mentor, Warren Buffett or like Dan Pena.
Yep.
Like, those are highly knowledgeable guys who have been it way longer than you, and I feel like some people are like, oh, I don't need them. I can do it all on my own.
I can do it on my own, mm-hmm. Right? Exactly. You're going to get better results if you, mm-hmm. do something as in, go seek, knowledge from these people. You're going to get
mm-hmm.
better results.
Agreed.
And also thinking, like, too, like, okay, I have a business. Everything's going smoothly. Like, it can never fail. And they, like, never track, okay, how are these group of people doing? How are my employees doing? How are they feeling mentally? How are they feeling, like, how are they doing work productively? And like not tracking it weekly or even daily or monthly or yearly. Like no one tracks it. Like they just think like everything's gonna be okay, mm-hmm. which that mm-hmm. ruins a business.
Yeah,
it really does.
I also think like
because there's okay.
No. Go ahead.
Because there's no space for improvement though.
I agree, and it's because though they're not dropping their egos for room to grow and stuff like that. So I think right now what we're talking about is the subconscious mind, but we're trying to bring light to it because we just talked about how it's bad. We just talked about how you could do all these poor things to develop it. But if you set goals and tell yourself you're going to do it, you are also building the confidence, which is very good for your subconscious mind because you're confident going into all tasks. You're not feeling dread. You're not feeling doubt. So when you're confident, you're naturally going to perform better in everything, whether it's conversations, whether it's in schoolwork, whether it's a workout, all these little different psychological things. So I think what we're doing right now is we're talking about how you can lower your subconscious mind severity. Mm-hmm. But I think you also do have to experience the suffering, the pain, and the appreciation of your journey. Because I think while you're doing this, you can also track of, wow, you kind of come to the conscious realization of how poorly you were living. Mm-hmm. And it's also making it that much better that you are changing. So I guess acknowledging your change subconsciously and consciously is a huge step in improvement. Mm-hmm. Because then you're really it's kind of almost like step one of, okay, I'm at the gym and I've been working out for 4 months. I'm seeing noticeable results with myself. It's kind of like that, but now you're doing it psychologically. Okay, it's been 4 months or 4 weeks, whatever it is. I'm seeing difference in my life right now, but for the better. Just like how you're getting gym results. That's kind of, I always draw the comparison of physical and mental, because there's just the two aspects of your body, your mind and physicality.
You know, I think another thing that we have to do is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Always step out of your comfort zone because that's only going to discipline you even more. Agreed. If we are so used to doing habits that we normally do every day, we're obviously going to continue doing these habits and we're never going to change. And subconsciously, it's very hard to change a habit that you do all the time.
Screen time.
Yeah.
Nicotine.
Right.
Caffeine.
Exactly.
Because you develop a dependence on it. You develop a dependence on it.
Right. Exactly. But if you start doing things that, and I know it's very hard to do because it's like, that's not me. Like, I don't really do shit like that. But, you know, if you step out of your comfort zone, you're going to be open to so many more things and you're going to be disciplined so well to the point where it's like, you know, you do shit without hesitation.
Think of it, I listen to Jordan Peterson a lot. He's like a huge controversial psychologist, though. And he was telling, like, I think he was on a podcast once. He was kind of saying that if you do things that make you uncomfortable, you are tapping into a new realm, new analytics in your brain, that you are basically unlocking new parts of yourself. So
right, exactly.
I never really thought of it until he said it, but your ancestors, okay, they pass down genes and genes and genes, physically and psychologically. Who knows that people before you could have been huge leaders back then, people who could have been very, very rich. People that I'm not talking about your mom, your dad, or your grandparents.
Talking about like generations.
Generations, I'm saying. So you have that in you. Mm-hmm. If you put yourself in new positions to grow, you're unlocking your ancestors in your mind. Mm-hmm. You're becoming those powerful images that you were always created to be. You just have to go through the tough times in life, and you have to go through the uncomfortable stages where it could be something as standing up to a bully. It could be standing up for what you believe is right. Making your own thoughts, making your own hypnotions, developing your own new self-interest, or surrounding yourself with new influences. If you do that, it's obviously going to feel a little bit uncomfortable when you first do it, but if you continuously build that up, I promise you're fulfilling a lot more than you ever would have thought you were capable of. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm in that spot right now. I feel like right now I'm tapping into a whole bunch of things that necessarily aren't making me happy as soon as I do them, but over time age very well.
Will benefit you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. You discover things that you never knew that you had, and I think that is key in self-improvement, and obviously it's a part of self-reflection.
I think you just find a little bit of magic that you never knew you had in you. That's how I look at it.
And it's a learning opportunity too. Like I never always like strap myself to one certain thing. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I won't try this other thing. Like I always was open-minded to other things to try. Mm-hmm. Whether that's this podcast was new. I've never done a pod. I mean, I did one in the past, but I've never really, thought I could do one. And it's good that we're all doing this because this is new for us. It's completely new for us.
Exactly.
This is stepping out of. I mean, at least not for me. I mean, because I've kind of stuff in front of the camera. But I'm sure for you guys, like this is stepping out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right? But it's making us better. And I also think it's because we set an expectation for it. We set a purpose. We're fulfilling that purpose subconsciously and consciously now. Mm-hmm. So we're living for a purpose, which is in a masculine man's nature. It's living with purpose. You're a provider. You want to live with a purpose to provide.
Mm-hmm. Bro, how much time do you left?
I got plenty.
We give it like 5-10 minutes because then
I got no. Because I got one more thing I want to talk about. Yeah. Is it's when we set a goal, right? I think the most essential thing is the system of how we are going to complete that goal. It's not what we're gonna do. It's not like what the goal is. It's
all the factors playing into it.
The system in place.
That goal.
You want to make the football team? I think a great start to achieving that goal is waking up, making your bed.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly. That's one of those things. Eating healthier. Yep. Working. I mean, I could work out twice a day. I mean, that's what we do anyway. So stuff like that. It's the small things. Because if you replicate. So, like, for example, like the football team. If I replicate what they do, that's going to put me in the same position as them. Which, gives me no excuse not to make that team. Yeah. And like I was saying before, is if I'm going to do that, I am going to make that team. If I am going to try and do that, my ass isn't making that team. It's
agreed.
Yeah.
It's crazy how small of a word change it is, but it means so much.
It does.
So much.
Another thing too, most people are like, oh, I want to go to the gym, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, but they don't have a plan to do it.
Right, exactly. There's other ways around things.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a car. Get a ride. Mm-hmm. or
get a job.
Like
run there.
Run.
If you want it that bad,
right?
Run
If you want it that bad, run there.
Or another thing too, get a job. If you don't have a job, go apply to one. Or
do things like Uber.
Do things like that.
Uber,
or
DoorDash.
Or
get the shit from your fucking phone now.
Yeah. Or even knock on your neighbor's door like, can I wash your car?
Yeah.
Can I like shovel like for example, it's snowing right now. Can I shovel your driveway?
Exactly.
For like $5.
What I think it is,
stand outside.
People, I know. People,
like
what
shit.
it is are subconsciously making excuses that they don't have to give a little bit of extra effort. For it, because they're not self-reflecting. Again, so I think what we just talked about today was more of, we talked about how the subconscious parts of your mind are very, very volatile to yourself. They could be very good, but I think we explained how at first it could be very bad, but then we kind of explained how you can make it better. And we're all living subconsciously free. I feel like we're all around that 0 to 10%, which is very good. You don't want to be any higher probably than 25%, I'd say.
Yeah.
So 10 to 0 is great. I think a lot of people though aren't where we are, so that's what we're trying to advocate to people. But I think that's it. I'm good with today.
I was gonna talk about one last thing, but
go for it.
No, we're good. Huh?
I mean,
save it for next one. We can start.
Dude,
with this. Yeah.
because I've read